All right, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack Robert Kiyosaki's famously contrarian views on wealth and education. I mean, if you've ever felt like that traditional path, go to school, get a safe job, save your pennies, just isn't really working out for you, well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're exploring the core concepts from his work, The Business School, and we're going to look at wealth creation through a completely different lens. Right out of the gate, we've got to address this huge central paradox. It's the question literally everyone asks. Why on earth does a guy who made his fortune in real estate and traditional business passionately recommend network marketing? It's a completely valid question. He didn't use this system to build his own initial wealth, right? So what does he see in it that the rest of us might be missing? Section 1, Why Network Marketing? Let's just be totally honest here. When most people hear those two words, their defenses immediately go up. So our source material actually starts off with a letter from a very concerned wife. She wrote in, completely terrified that her husband was being scammed. She said he was pouring all his time into this vitamin business, not making much money, and she was convinced it was just a pyramid scheme where only the guy at the very top gets rich. She thought he was wasting his precious time building someone else's dream instead of his own company. And frankly, that image of a pyramid scheme with one guy hoarding all the gold, yeah, that perfectly captures the exact skepticism almost everybody shares. But here is the real turning point. Kiyosaki himself had his mind completely closed to this industry back in the mid-1970s. When a friend first pitched him a network marketing opportunity, he just walked away, thinking it was a total scam and that he was already building his own global business anyway. It actually wasn't until the 1990s, well after he'd already achieved financial freedom, that he decided to really look under the hood. And what he found completely shocked him. He didn't find a bunch of greed. He found a business with a heart. Section 2. Rich people build networks. Let's see how this all ties into the core philosophy about what actually creates lasting wealth in the real world. Now, this is a seriously powerful mantra. Rich people build networks. Everyone else is trained to look for work. Really think about that for a second. Our entire traditional system is designed from the ground up to train us to be loyal employees, constantly looking for a safe job inside someone else's network. But the wealthy? They don't look for jobs. They build the massive systems that provide those jobs. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to talk about Thomas Edison. Most schools teach that Edison just invented the light bulb, right? But that's only half the story. There were actually other light bulbs before his, they just weren't very practical. His true genius, it actually came from business. As a kid, he built a hustle selling candy and newspapers on trains. Then he became a telegraph operator, which is where he learned the immense power of connecting systems. By the time he worked on the light bulb, he knew that the bulb itself was absolutely useless without a system to power it. So he didn't just invent a practical bulb, he built the entire electrical grid network. And guys, this is the real secret to immense wealth. Wealth isn't in the product, it is in the network. The light bulb was just the product, but the electrical grid, that was the network that made Edison a multimillionaire. We see this exact same pattern with Henry Ford, who built a massive network of assembly lines, gas stations, and delivery trucks. We see it with John D. Rockefeller and his endless oil pipelines. The people who control the networks literally control the wealth. Section 3. What is real education? Because, if building networks is the ultimate key, why aren't we taught how to do it? Let's get into it. There is just a massive contrast between traditional education and real business education. Traditional schools are basically designed to create safe, reliable employees. And they do this by teaching us to be absolutely terrified of making mistakes. If you make a mistake on a test, you get punished with a bad grade. But out in the real business world, you have to make mistakes to learn. A real business education actually encourages you to fail, learn from that failure, and grow stronger. In the real world, the most successful people are almost always the ones who have made the most mistakes. The source material compares this kind of real education to military flight school. You go in as a regular person, a caterpillar, maybe terrified of failure, and the rigorous training transforms you mentally, physically, and emotionally into a butterfly, a confident pilot capable of handling incredible challenges. Does traditional school do that? Honestly, rarely. Real business education completely transforms your mindset, pulling you out of that fearful employee mentality and turning you into a highly confident business owner. Section 4. 11 Ways to Get Rich. Now that we understand the mindset, let's look at the practical paths people actually take. So the source outlines 10 traditional ways people try to get rich. And honestly, it's kind of exhausting just to think about them. You can marry for money, You can be a crook, but then, you're just dealing with other crooks all day. You can rely on sheer hard work, but physical labor often gets taxed the absolute highest. You could rely on incredible talent like a prime Tiger Woods. You can rely on sheer luck, but we all know how lottery winners usually end up. You can inherit it. You can invest, but that requires having a huge chunk of money to begin with. Or you can try building a traditional corporate business, which takes massive capital and carries huge, huge risks. Now, here is where the dramatic reveal happens, the 11th way. Because if you look at those first 10 methods we just listed, they're almost all self-centered, highly exclusive, or require massive amounts of luck and money. But number 11, it completely changes the game. Section 5, a true equal opportunity. This 11th way stands apart because it represents a completely different paradigm from that cutthroat corporate ladder where everyone is just stepping on each other to get to the top. Network marketing is often referred to as a personal franchise. It's a truly democratic wealth-building system with a radical open-door policy, and it is incredibly empowering. I mean, the system doesn't care if you have some fancy MBA, it doesn't care about your gender, your race, or how much money your parents made. It literally only cares about your drive, your willingness to learn, and your resilience to keep going when things get tough. It focuses entirely on your future, not your past. But here is the absolute core difference. In traditional business, your focus is primarily on making yourself rich. But in network marketing, you literally cannot succeed unless you help others do the same. Your success is directly tied to how well you teach, support, and mentor your network. It shifts the entire focus from greed to generosity. You build your wealth by actively empowering the people around you to build theirs. It's a real win-win. Section 6, life-changing education. Because honestly, beyond the money, this is arguably the most crucial benefit of the whole industry. The foundation here is this 4-point pyramid of learning. Traditional schools, they really only focus on the mental point, reading, writing, and arithmetic. But real life requires all four. Emotional education is all about overcoming that deeply ingrained fear of failure and rejection. Physical education is about actually taking action, making mistakes, getting knocked down, and physically dragging yourself back up again. And finally, spiritual education, not in a religious sense, but in the sense of the human spirit, believing in your own limitless potential and pushing past the boundaries you thought you had. This business builds your character, not just your bank account. And that holistic education connects right back to the ultimate goal. The true value of this industry isn't just about selling a product. It's about fundamentally transitioning your mindset. It's about stopping the cycle of working for the system as a fearful employee and gaining the confidence, the emotional resilience, and the leadership skills to start actually owning the system as a true business owner. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to chew on for this explainer. Take a good, hard look at where you are spending your time and energy right now. Ask yourself, are you building someone else's network, or are you building your own? Because the wealthy are building networks. It might just be time to take control of your own financial destiny and start building yours.